happening, everyone? This is Shane from GotRom.com. We're going to start off this 8-minute bridge routine with a little bit of gentle shoulder circles just to get the blood flowing, checking in with our body. If you'll notice, my eyes are closed as I'm doing my shoulder circles and my neck circles. This is me tuning in to what I'm feeling. Do I feel any pain anywhere, any tightness, any restriction? That's something you want to know, and it's something that you can feel a lot better when your eyes are closed. I'm also pinning down the scalene muscles on my neck. People don't realize that the neck muscles being tight has a lot of influence on the shoulder, but keep your jaw clenched when you're doing your scalene muscle stretch. And then I'm going to flow into a little bit of a upper back arching. So I'm just kind of wiggling around, mobilizing my thoracic spine, moving into downward dog for thoracic spine and shoulder mobility. I'm actively pressing my hands into the ground as I flow into an upward dog for a gentle back bend warm-up. Then I curl my toes underneath and press back into downward dog, opening up the shoulders, opening up the upper back, the thoracic spine. This one-arm down dog is to learn how to push the ground away. So I'm actively pushing, which will help me get into deeper back bends. And so I'll flow between the two-arm version and the one-arm version, starting to increase the blood flow, also getting a nice little hamstring stretch while I'm at it. From there, I'm going to do some scap push-ups. This is more just sort of activating my muscles, getting the blood flowing, just getting things warm. And then I'm going to start doing some big shoulder circles, big circles with my arm, actively reaching to the sky, warming up. It's important that you're hot and sweaty before you go into deep things like deep back bends or the splits or other intense things. Don't forget to move in both directions. Notice any side-to-side differences. No, this is not the chicken dance. This is a shoulder internal rotation stretch for your posterior rotator cuff. You should feel this in your posterior shoulder, in your rotator cuff, not in the front of the shoulder. This is another posterior shoulder stretch called the cross body. Just checking in with my body, seeing how all the muscles in and around the shoulder joint are feeling. I like to come back to home base, which is often downward dog for me. It's a good way of checking in how things are starting to open up as the routine progresses. And then I'm moving into spinal twist for thoracic mobility. Most people don't realize, but the more that your spine can rotate, the more it can also extend, which is what we want it to do in a bridge, thoracic extension or the thoracic bridge. So that's why we include some thoracic rotation or upper back twisting work, because it's not all about the sagittal plane, just forward and back, just arch harder for your bridge. You also have to make sure that every spinal segment is moving with good mobility. So breathe and relax deeply in these positions. Close your eyes, feel what's happening in your body. From here, we're going to do a little gentle cat-cow mobilization from yoga. This is obviously for spinal mobility, but also to be able to move and feel each segment of your spine individually is very helpful when you get into deeper back bending. And then we stretch our hip flexors. This helps to protect our low back so that we don't overarch from our low back because of tight hip flexors. If you have tight hip flexors in your back bends, you will overarch your low back and it will not feel very good. Notice how I'm reaching up to the sky and slightly side bending. That's really helpful to get a nice deep psoas and iliacus hip flexor stretch. Then I flow through downward dog again, and I stretch my hip flexor on the other side. Notice how I really set myself up into a posterior pelvic tilt. I'm using my hands and my abs to exaggerate this posterior pelvic tilt, which gives me a better, more uniform hip flexor stretch. And the hands reaching up helps me to get a more active hip extension versus just kneeling on the ground. And that subtle side bend also helps to deepen the stretch. Flowing again through home base, downward dog, and then now I'm going into puppy pose, which is a pretty deep upper back stretch. And I can even up it a notch by going into extended puppy pose. You should feel everything in the upper back. You shouldn't feel any pain anywhere, just a nice upper back stretch when you're doing these puppy pose variations. This is another variation where now I'm putting my hands underneath my chin, so I'm getting a bit more cervical extension. You see this a lot in contortion practice. If this doesn't feel good on your neck because you have never stretched your neck like this, or you've never, bent your neck in that position, then go back to one of the other variations. But it is nice to play with other things. But if it is intense, go to a counter pose or a rounding of the neck and the upper back to help alleviate any slight tension that might come from all these arching exercises. And here I'm just doing what my body was asking for. And you should do the same. If your body is saying, hey, this intuitively feels like the right next exercise to flow into, listen to that little voice and do that. Now I'm going to get into my bridge. Of course, you could make that routine twice as long, 3 times as long, but because I'm pretty experienced, I can get warmed up pretty quick and get into a decent back bend after just a few minutes. You can do these bridge push-ups to deepen the arching sensation that you feel in your upper back, which will deepen your bridge. And then when you're ready, after a couple of these sort of bridge push-ups, you can push with your feet, puff your chest out, push the ground away, adjust your feet to find your perfect distance, and go for your deepest bridge. After all that deep back bending, another counter pose to relax the spine and feel good is very nice. I like to do a little rounding just to let my joints know it's okay. That was deep. You were at your end range, but shake it out, relax to the max, and enjoy a nice deep bridge.